think if it comes to like tips and tricks on how to navigate life and business, it's for sure the general consensus and understanding that there's going to be a shit ton of challenges and frustrating things that get thrown our way. Kids getting sick, work not working out, deals being lost. I think the biggest tip that I think both you and I can share with everyone is the word opportunity, and really having that mindset of when a challenge comes, instead of seeing it as a challenge, see it as an opportunity. My favourite word is, like you said, it's a blip. The hardship that we experience right now in our moment, in 6 months' time, we're going to see that as a little blip that we just wouldn't even remember about. Hey everyone, it's Julia.
And Victor, and we're multi-award winning entrepreneurs. We own a portfolio of businesses and we also have 2 kids under 3.
As husband and wife, we have decided to start this podcast as a way of giving back and sharing our journey with some raw conversations, knowledge and learnings that we have been having together over the past 13 years of building our businesses and our life together. Hey everyone, welcome back to Elevate with Vic and Juls. We're so excited because this week we'll be discussing the hot topic that we keep getting asked about, and that is, what are the pros and cons of building a business empire with your life partner? So as many of you know, Vic and I are almost 10 years in marriage. I think we've been together for 13 or 14 years of that, right, Vic?
Yes, I've got to remember the dates, but yes, we have been together for over 13 years now.
Yeah.
You have your business for over 12.
Yes.
So
I just keep using this podcast as a way of reminding you that it's almost our 10-year wedding anniversary.
Yes.
So I expect a big gift is what I'm saying. No, all jokes aside, today we're really going to unpack some of, I guess, the pros and cons of working together, doing life together, being parents together. And there's definitely, I guess, it's a multifaceted choice that we've made. But rewinding back to the beginning, because we've been doing this together in terms of working together in our businesses for the past 8 years. Vic, why did we decide to venture out and start to collaborate in this way?
Well, but rewinding back, I was in the banking industry, over a decade in the banking industry, and I decided to leave my job because I saw that you were building something and it was making impact in the community. And for me, it really aligned in terms of personal values and also aligning with your values even more, that we are doing something for the good of the community, and events was something that was really exciting for us to actually have, your interest in events, my interest in community, and actually doing this together. And that formulated what we became JT. Loved all of the values that you've led and created as a company, and decided, hey, I want to join up and be a piece of it. Yeah.
I think for me at the time, 8 years ago, it was a selfish reason because, close friends would know I'm terrible at maths, and finance is not my strength. So, I was really looking for and leaning on your expertise, especially as we were growing and scaling at that point as well, to come in and provide that foundational structure that JT really needed. So it was a no-brainer to go in on it together. But I think what was even more interesting to that was the fact that, as any business owner would fully understand, is that running a business is so consuming. It is a 24-hour job. You wake up thinking about it, you go to bed thinking about it, you're constantly on. And I think with you in the finance world being such an intense job as well, we were constantly together but weren't really together, right? You were on a computer dealing with your own clients, meeting people, closing deals, and I was project managing, running events. And so it was a really big thing where I think we both were like, you know what, we're working so hard, may as well work together, so we can spend more time together and actually, be able to have a rant about how the day went and really have each other's back and understand what we're talking about. So it was a bit of selfish reason to kind of have you join the business, but of course it's been the best decision ever, not without saying that there's been a lot of challenges along the way.
Yes.
And disagreements and learnings and communication, which we can all unpack across the next, 30, 40 minutes together.
Yep.
But Vic, so 8 years on, how do you find, I guess, working together and building an empire now?
Yeah, it's I find it really exciting. There's so many exciting things to come as well. But in the journey of the last 8 years, I found it really rewarding. I think like getting to work by the side of your loved one and having really clear vision together of what you want to build and building it together is such a unique but also really exciting thing for both of us. And I thought about it and it's like, would I get sick of you at some point? We're literally by each other's side 24/7 for the last 8 years.
Literally,
I was like, do I get sick of you? I was like, no, I don't, because it's become, we're so used to each other that it's actually the opposite now, that when we're away from each other, like I have a meeting here and you have a meeting here, it's like, oh my God, we're not by each other's side. And I was like, waiting to actually get back and tell you about what the meeting was all about. And that's how I feel. And yeah, it's really exciting for me to be by your side all the time. How about you?
Thanks, hubby. I appreciate that. Definitely. I think that crosses our mind, and people always ask, like, don't you get sick of each other? You see each other all the time. You do everything together. But yeah, it's interesting. I think the past 8 years, it's like you say, it's a very rewarding journey. And I think the biggest piece that we've learned coming out of working together in this way is because you end up being so aligned. I think, for any average person, your work week is 40, potentially 50 hours out of your week. That's a lot of hours out of your average week spent working. And if you're not aligned in your goals and where you want to be and your ambitions, it is quite challenging. And I think we've been able to leverage those 40 hours, 50 hours, and let's be real, running a business is a lot more hours than that. Spending our time fine-tuning and really aligning in what our goals are, particularly over the past, I would say, 3 to 4 years. And being hyper-focused in where we want to head with our life, what we want to build, what kind of impact we want to create on our community. It just makes every win and challenge much more satisfying as well.
Yep.
But there are a lot of funny moments along the way, and I think, one of the questions we tend to get asked is like, how do you give feedback to each other without breaking into an argument? And I think this has been one that we've had to fine tune along the way. I think, like, Vic, what would you say is a hot tip for any partners working together, not necessarily life partners, but even more so if you are life partners?
Yep.
How have you found giving feedback to each other working?
Yeah, very interesting topic, because this is the reason as to why we're still together, right? And it is to actually understand each other and where the point comes from. There's a lot of times where we're in disagreements because we have two different point of views. But
two different personalities.
Different personalities and two different point of views. And the reason why you go into disagreement is, have you heard out the other side of the story? And normally it's like, okay, hear each other out. Where there's education and growth, or where I find education and growth, is when you're calling me out for something that I didn't see, or you're telling me something that I could have done better, or there's a learning in terms of personal growth in the messages that you're telling me. That's where I'm like, thank you, because I take that as a feedback that I can improve And over a period of time of these improvements is that you just get better and better as a person, as your values, as how you treat people, how you speak to people. So I find that very, very rewarding because I get to learn and grow. Sometimes it's really hard to navigate these things if there was, let's say, a personal stab on something, you know?
Which sometimes happens.
Yeah, of course. And that's where arguments can happen. But I think what's more importantly is like if we step back into what makes the decision a business decision that is better for the business, that is such an important thing to do because you can't just go into disagreement and go, I'm going to do the wrong thing because of the business goes into the wrong scenario. That can cause losses. It can cause reputational damage. It can cause a lot of other damages alongside that. So I believe that it's really interesting where these comments come from and how do we navigate that together and see it as growth potential. How about yourself?
I think it's been like for both of us, it's about really early on establishing the way that we want to be communicated to and by, and stripping the ego away. I think it's really important as husband and wife, as business partners, co-founders, whatever you want to call it. There's always ego that we carry in ourselves, as is everyone. But I think whenever we're having a serious conversation, it's about stripping the ego away, like you say, and putting the business best interests lens on. It has to be for the best interests of the business and the best interests of the team or the client or the attendees or whoever we're working for or whatever the discussion may be, in order for us to make rational, logical decision and not base it on emotion or ego that I want to be right in this particular scenario. And I think we've been, we haven't always been perfect, definitely in our earlier days, but over time we've been really training ourselves to have these conversations where we're very clear with each other in a really rational tone as well, and giving each other space to think about it. And I think, like a really simple, trick or tool that we always do is really being like, okay, I acknowledge what you're saying. I hear what you're saying and really hear it, not just saying it to shut the other person up, but then also following up with like, these are my reasonings and giving each other space to really take that away and share feedback, We try not to raise our voice. Sometimes we do, but most of the time, whatever we decide on, if it is in disagreements or giving feedback, we always acknowledge and we move on. Like the biggest thing I think, and the biggest, aspect to our relationship that I think we do really well is we never hang on to anything for too long. It's always like, okay, right, make a decision together, acknowledge it. If we fucked up, whatever, call it out, apologize, move on. And then putting that ego aside so that we can progress. Because at the end of the day, I think deep down we know what our ultimate goal is and where we want to head, and that we're always putting that lens of, what's best for our life, what's best for our business, what's best for our family as the key aspect. And therefore the decision that follows is in alignment to that, not as a personal attack on one another. Now, I think another thing that's worth sharing, which I think we really enjoyed, and I think we did this training probably 3 years ago, is with an amazing, actually now Melbourne-based trainer. His name's Paul Larkin. He has an incredible business. And he does process communication model, PCM. Yeah, process communication model. And that was an incredible training for both of us. I think it is a part personality test training. And then it also taught us like best ways to communicate with each other. Vic, do you remember what your personality type ended up being?
Yes, I do remember very clearly. So I am a thinker, but base thinker. Which means everyone has a base on a certain personality. But then I also phased into a promoter. So a promoter is a more, let's say, a direct person. And the reason why there may have been a phase is because it can be a job-related event, or it could have been a trauma event that would cause a phase in the personality. But then you have two personalities that you're really strong in. So I was a thinker, by base, and then a promoter by a phasing.
Yeah.
How about you for yourself?
Mine was, interestingly enough, was also thinker by base, which makes a lot of sense. I probably could have guessed that one for myself because of the events management and logical brain and that kind of thing. So thinker is someone who's very logical, likes procedures and whatnot. And then my second phased into area, which I'm very high in, is harmonizer, which is more empathetical, touchy feeling, kind of emotional side of things, loves to hear affectionate words and all of that, likes to be praised and also like to be loved and cared for. So it was really interesting when we found out our personality, and we did this across the whole team, right? So that was also fascinating to identify, every team member's personality. But what I really liked coming out of that particular training, which I think was a game changer for our relationship, is then we got to learn how to communicate to the different types of bases. And one of the things Paul taught us that was so key is the fact that you always have to communicate in the level the person likes to be communicated to, not what your preference is.
Yep.
And I think it's funny because you're so used to I love to say, lots of fluffy words and love to show care, and therefore I apply that to other people. But once I realize that, hey, it's actually not, it doesn't matter what I want, it's about how they listen and ensuring that I can change my way of communicating to match them. We ended up being able to call each other out on that a lot more. I remember, we'll always sit in the car and we'll have a chat and I'll share, challenging day or whatever it is. And your thinker base would always be like, here's the solution. You do this and this and this, and we're going to call this person and email this person this way. And I have to actually, sometimes be like, hey, Vic, I'm just sharing. I just want you to hear me out and say that you've heard what I'm saying. I don't need you to give me a solution. And I think being able to understand our personalities and then the fact that you should communicate based on what it is that the person wants rather than what you feel like you want has been such a great way for us to communicate better, understand each other better, and really help us resolve some of the challenges that have come up along the way as well.
Yep, 100%. Communication is probably one of the biggest, it's the most important thing in any relationship, is to make sure that you are communicating with each other the way that the other person needs to be communicated with and not your preference. Otherwise, it goes into one ear and goes out the next, or it even causes more arguments because your communication channels are not actually crossing each other. So it is that also the form of listening as well when you're communicating is what is the messaging that's coming through and trying to adapt and also listen really carefully in terms of what the person needs, which really builds really strong relationships. And sometimes you get it wrong. Yep. Sometimes I listen to you in the car. I was like, yep. Okay, solution. And basically it's like, oh, no, that's not. And that was your base thinker as well, because we're solution orientated people by base.
Yeah.
But then when the other side kicks in, it's like, okay, you need love or you need to be heard and you need to be cared for. Then it's like calling me out. I know that I need to switch because that's my point of saying, okay, I'm sorry. The solution is not what you want. It's, okay, I do care for you. So let's do something else that will break your state that you're in, or if you're stressed, let's do something to actually break that state and go back into a more stable mentality. So, yeah.
Now, I always think it's always good to kind of share some of the mistakes we've made along the way.
Yep. Got to be juicy.
yeah. Got to get into the juicy bits. We've been working together for a very long time, and we obviously are two very different people as well, even though, we're aligned in our thinking and our values and our goals, obviously. But Vic, what do you think are some of the mistakes we've made by not listening to each other along the way in our journey of building our businesses?
I think, and this comes from the personality side of things between our differences and understanding that you're the harmonizer and I'm more the directive personality, is there were certain times where we've hired people into our company, and it's really difficult for us to say, but he wasn't the right fit, or he just wasn't quite right. And we have different personalities where there is a conflict of what I wanted to do and what you wanted to do. And as a very nurturing person, you're seeing things as let's work with them.
I'm the benefit of the doubt person.
Yep.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm more like the thinker and the more directive person. Is I look at I do everything by data and make decisions by data, not by emotions. And when I find discrepancy in people's work, or it's not quite to the quality, or something's happening that's not quite right in people, I normally bring it up to you, and we're like, we've got to do something about it. And the quicker we do something about it, the better it is. And then the
and then I bring the emotions in, and I'm like, but maybe, maybe we'll give them another chance or a few more chances.
Maybe we got to monitor for a little bit longer. And sometimes the cost of an indecision, whether sometimes it's months, sometimes it's even years of making a decision, and the cost of that decision is damaging over a period of time. And this is probably where some of these things like culture has been affected, and if we're not building or someone in the business is not in the right culture or culture mindset, these things can affect other team members. Or if we're looking at the speed of their productivity, this is where it can hurt the business, because other people are affected by efficiencies and productivity as well. So it's just making sure that we're making those right decisions collectively together. And sometimes we do go through and say, okay, we'll hang tight for a little bit longer, but then it costs the business in many other ways.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely have to learn. That's a really good example where I think, we have our disagreements. And then in hindsight, I'm always in agreement now. I'm like, yes, you were right. I trumped you in your decisions at that point in time, but clearly you are right. That was the wrong call. But I think over time, and this has happened quite a few times too, might I add. So, bless your soul, you're always kind of like, okay, I'll go with your decision because I'm quite firm in that. But I think over time, on reflection, running a company and now companies, the learning for me is that I am not good with those particular decisions, and hence why now we've decided to obviously have our leadership involved and have HR involved and all of that kind of thing, and actually have other people manage other people, because you are right. Some of those decisions and points that we've made along our way, not necessarily were to the benefit of the business. Coming out the other way, we definitely learned a heap. But I think the big takeaway for me was that it's not my strengths in making those tough calls, and I sometimes can shy away from it. And that's probably in a partnership sense is where you can really come in and sort that out. But better yet, now we know we've fully stepped away. We've got other team members in those leadership roles to, really get that part organised, which is great. Now, from I guess that's the business side of things. Obviously we've evolved in the way that we communicate to each other and whatnot, but then just to kind of chuck in the personal life into the mix. 8 years ago we were just the two of us and 2 cats. And now we're 2 people, still the 2 cats are around, but we've got 2 little babies under 3, Jeslyn and Jordan. So the dynamics have really changed. And I think the expectations of being parents, the expectations of still showing up for the team and the businesses, and obviously showing up for our kids and our families, our immediate parents and siblings as well, has really evolved. And I think there's been an added layer of pressure and stress along the way. So I guess again, you know, a hot topic or hot question that everyone always asks us is like, how do we juggle it all? Or how do you strike that balance between like being young parents, you know, running businesses and doing life? I guess what are some of the tips around that do you find, Vic, from our day to day?
It's we definitely have a blessing because we have a lot of support around us in order for us to do what we do, and you know we're thankful for our families who are really stepping up in terms of looking after our children at the same time as while we're running our businesses. But I do appreciate, you know, the relationship that we have, because when we are like we work as a unit together, and every time that we need to get up in the middle of the night is like, there's one person that'll get up without complaining and take care of the children, and we do it together. So it's not just yourself, it's myself putting in the effort. And when we're talking about the relationship that we have, is that there's no lack of effort between any of us, because we're just pushing forth with everything that we've got, and we put all in. We go all in. So, and this is where it's really exciting for us, because some of these things that we need to navigate in life are fast paced and fast moving because of the way we are in terms of our relationship, and being able to make decisions quickly or do things quickly or get into the right choices as quickly as possible. And sometimes it may not be the right choice either, but we're coming out of these issues really quickly as well, because I guess both of us have been coached and been mentored through a lot of mindset as well, where it's really hard to have something bother us because we're trained in mindset training as well. So it's really exciting, and whenever we see challenges, is that we see that it's an opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
Rather than seeing it, that's an issue and be bogged down about it.
Yeah.
We were like, okay, in how many months' time when we get over this speed hump, is that we're going to be better people at the end of the day, and that's going to be a learning that we're going to take. So we're actually excited about these challenges, because what else can we do afterwards?
Yeah.
How about you for yourself?
Yeah, I think I definitely echo what you say, Vic, because I think if it comes to like tips and tricks on how to navigate life and business, it's for sure the general consensus and understanding that there's going to be a shit ton of challenges and frustrating things that gets thrown our way, you know, kids getting sick, work not working out, deals being lost, you know, things that needs to come up with a deadline that you have to make happen. But like you say, I think the biggest tip that I think both you and I can share with everyone is the word opportunity, and really having that mindset of like, when a challenge comes, instead of seeing it as a challenge, as our mentor would say, is see it as an opportunity. And my favorite word is, like you said, it's a blip, you know, the hardship that we experience right now in our moment, in 6 months' time, we're going to see that as a little blip that we just wouldn't even remember about. And we've had some things thrown our way, like from the worst case of scenarios, from, you know, team members leaving and the most integral part of our company, from major multi-year contracts being lost because of various reasons, through to personal life things, you know. We've seen and we've been through a lot together, but we've always looked at it as, hey, when shit hits the fan, it's like, instead of, seeing it as a big compiled bonfire of things that's going wrong, we see, okay, let's look through the fire and like, let's see what are the opportunities we can then take and run with it. And 9 times out of 10, that mindset has really served us really well. And I also really appreciate, I think, especially being a young mum and obviously being a female running a business, there's a huge expectation when we were pregnant that I would take, you know, your traditional 12 months off and sit back and spend my time with my baby and do all of that kind of thing, and that you would continue working and that kind of stuff. And I obviously made a conscious choice to go back into the business with Jeslyn pretty early on, and then obviously with Jordan as well. Even though the company's under management, you know, we've gone back to, or I've gone back to work pretty quickly as well. And being able to be comfortable with that decision and knowing that I have great support from yourself as my other half, but also our immediate family to allow us to do what we do is so incredible. And I think there's this stigma around you know, mums at work or female entrepreneur needing to park what they're trying to dream up or create once they become a mum. I just think that's so old school. I do think, you know, that there is that possibility to be able to do it all. But I think the biggest thing, and it's still always a challenge that I have to battle on a regular basis, and you know this as well, is that mum guilt that keeps coming up every now and then. On the back of your mind is like being able to sit in that comfort and know that, you know, the decision I'm making today is for my family and it's for our goals and values, and again being really clear around that, and knowing that whatever I'm putting in is my kids are going to reap the reward later on, and being okay about it, and knowing that, you know, it's okay to pursue what I want to pursue in career and in life, even as a mother of two young kids. You definitely don't need to park your life unless you choose to, and that's totally fine. For us, that wasn't something that we wanted to do. We always saw, and in fact, this was a thing that our mentor called out and said to us, is like, having kids now is actually going to accelerate your growth. And we saw it as that, right? Like having Jeslyn and Jordan has really accelerated our goals, and we've just kind of taken that and run with it.
100%. I think like having kids and I totally see, you know, when you're experiencing the mum guilt as well. But you know, where I see you as the fierce leader in the industry, as well as like, you know, doing so much for community and doing so much for impact and doing so much for leading the businesses that we have, is like I see the opportunity of why people around us need to step up, including myself, in terms of taking care of more of the duties, is because you need to be in that position. You do lead that side of things, so it's a really important thing that you are doing the best in what you do.
Yeah. Thanks, Vic. I mean, I think another good way of sharing a bit of insight into our lives, I guess, in terms of how we manage the chaos, and at the best of times it is very chaotic, is I guess a couple of like non-negotiable things that we always do for each other and for our family. And I can kick that off by saying, you know, sharing a bit of insight is we always have a Monday morning check-in, or we try to keep it on Monday anyway because it's the start of the week. And again, it's something that we learned over times. We used to dive from week into weekends back into work week and not give ourselves that opportunity to be like, let's reset. And reprioritize until we were told you have to have these meetings. And so we've now built it into like a little breakfast date on a Monday morning. Whilst everyone's off doing things, we would go to a cafe, eat food together, and go through our list of priorities across all of our businesses, and including life, and just reprioritize what we need to get done that week. And I always find that very, very helpful to keep ourselves aligned and in check with each other. What would be some of the insights that you want to share?
I think insight for us is to have fun at the same time. Like I feel like it's a really important element that a lot of business owners, especially when you're a couple in business, is that you forget about some of these elements of actually enjoying the process.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, like on the weekends or you know, during the weekends, we do try to clock off as much as possible. Although sometimes we do work, but most of the time we're spending time with family, bringing them out, giving them experiences. You know, where we can take holidays and travel, and at the same time of traveling is to try to learn other cultures and see what else can we experience and bring back into our business. We always think of that all the time. You know, rewarding ourselves for each other, as well as rewarding our family members who are always there for us, and they do a lot of things for us without complaint. So you making sure that everyone is celebrated and rewarded at all times. And also for our team members as well, like we have to have fun with the team, because when there's no fun at work, it will just be work.
Yeah.
And I feel like to build the right culture is to have fun while you're working, at the same time building really strong relationships with one another. And to do that, to have, some social events happening at work to make sure that people bond.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good tip. And I think it's funny because culturally for us, growing up the way that we did, building what we have now from the ground up with nothing, it's always in that mindset. And definitely for me, there was no gap year. There was no schoolies or whatever you used to call it. And holidays was not a thing because I just wanted to work and work. And then even as together, as husband and wife, when we're together, we're constantly working. And again, that alignment the last couple of years, we've realized that the thing that we were really lacking was exactly what you said, the element of fun. And it's so important. It doesn't have to be extravagant. Sometimes we do jet off to other countries and take our kids and take our whole family with us, which is great fun. But other times it's just like having a movie night and, ordering popcorn from the cinema to get Uber Eats delivered home because we're lazy. But for that's fun for us, just being able to cuddle our kids and watch a good movie together as well. But yeah, giving ourselves permission and allowing ourselves to have fun along the way of, building a business, building a life together really is so, so important. Yeah.
100%.
Now, I guess to round out, I think it's worth sharing some final tips, around our natural strengths as husband and wife, as business owners, on how we really lean in on it to help grow our brand and our businesses. So what do you want to share, Vic, in terms of your strengths when it comes to building the businesses that we have and operating the life that we live today?
I mean, I found myself, and this is probably a lesson that we learned really early on, was that the roles needed to be defined really clearly. And, I was the one who was managing the finance and doing more of the strategic sales, and then long-term vision was what I was focusing on. So what's our runway is basically what it was. And then that's from the very start of the business, and then now going to where we're at now is really just strategic side of things is what I'm really focused on. And how do we form partnerships with other businesses and building really strong relationships? How do we then go through and strategically provide education to our leaders and our business partners to make sure that their businesses are running the way we need to, or our businesses are running the way we need to. So that's where I found my strength is, and that's where I'm really passionate about now, is to provide that mentorship and that strategic lens to all the businesses that we're involved in. How about for yourself?
Yeah, I think for me, my strengths over the years, in the early days was definitely around the event management and then getting really creative, and then, team management and that kind of thing. But I think now my strength is definitely in the creative side of it. It's really like what you were saying, from you look at it on the strategic lens. For me, it's looking at it on a creative lens. How do we stay innovative? How do we stay on top of our game? Picking up on the trends and making sure that we are, especially in our events marketing and our portfolio of business industry, how do we stay really innovative and future thinking and future proofing in a fun and creative way? So I know our team loves it when I always come to them and be like, I got a new idea. Let's do this now, or texting them, WhatsApping these articles and posts and Instagram posts and whatever. But definitely the strength is really leaning in on my creativity, whilst being comfortable and letting the team do what they do best. And that whether that be managing a project, doing a marketing campaign, doing a video, whatever it is, respectively to the business, just giving them space to letting them really own that and really running with it, whilst I can really come in and provide my creativity. But I think more importantly, the aspect that I really want to hone in on with this whole idea of like, I guess, pros and cons of running a business together as husband and wife is how much fun it is to be able to do it together with your life partner, and how much it can really improve our relationship as well. Like I think we are so much better now as husband and wife working together, you know, doing life together, having kids together, parenting and all of that, because of all the challenges and the journey of building a business has really taught us like better communication skills, better leadership skills, better understanding of what triggers each other as well, and setting each other off, and how best to kind of manage each other's emotions and, you know, all of the highs and lows. So I'm so glad we have decided to do all of that. And I think the big takeaway point for me and the big thing I'm always advocating for is this notion of when people go, how do you balance it all? I truly think there is no such thing as balance. Like this idea of work-life balance is wild. Especially, you know, you don't even need to be in business as life partners, but just generally, you know, as an employee, as another business owner, you know, this construct of you needing to always balance things is so pressuring, it's so exhausting. And then you throw, you know, the fact that you do it together as a life partner and you have kids and, you know, multiple businesses. There is no such thing as balance. Like I think what you were saying before we started this podcast was like this notion of a work-life mash or blend. I like to call it blend. And I think, you know, the idea of it being a true blend and being able to go, hey, it's okay to be chatting about business at dinner together because you are working together all the time. It's okay that after, you know, for us at the moment anyway, our kids are so young, they go to bed at, you know, 8:30, 9 o'clock, and we do hop on our laptops and answer emails. It's okay that sometimes our day doesn't actually, or work day doesn't actually start till 10 a.m. because we have to get the kids ready, get them to childcare or families. And being comfortable with that, and that it is truly a work-life blend or a work-life mash, and that we shouldn't be, put in this box of like this constant feeling of needing to balance everything. Because I think, you know, on top of everything else in society, like it is just the unnecessary stress, and it's unrealistic. And it will actually end up making you feel like you're always failing, like you're always not meeting that balance, whatever that balance really is. And you're always, you know, running towards it and chasing this balance that in my eyes, doesn't actually exist. So I think if you can get comfortable with the idea of blending your life between work, life, parenting, whatever else you got going on, hobbies, then you will always live a much more enjoyable life as well.
Cool.
Any final parting words before we wrap up this episode?
I mean, you bring up a really good point, and I guess like the reason why we're doing what we're doing currently and really focusing on, like, you know, there is a lot of work that we do and hours that we put into work, and we don't see it as a balance anymore. But for the opportunity that we have is we are able to put that work in, and that is an opportunity in itself for us to put the work in and grow, and to meet the goals needs time and it needs effort. And being able to take that opportunity and put everything that we have into work, as well as, you know, when we show up for our kids, we show up for our kids. You know, we're trying to give them the best at the same time, but in order for us to be the best that we can, is that we do need to do both at the same time in many instances. And all we do is put our best into both worlds. And where this mash comes from is when we need to talk about work, we talk about work. It doesn't matter when it happens. And when we need to talk about kids, we need to talk about kids. So and it doesn't matter when that happens either. So.
Yeah, giving yourself permission to live that particular life is so important.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that concludes episode 3. Thanks everyone for listening. I hope you really enjoyed that and a bit more insight on how I guess we're juggling it all and doing life together as husband and wife, business owners, parents, all of the above. Please do follow us on social media and subscribe to our channel, and then of course spread this episode far and wide for those who are in business together with a partner. It doesn't have to be a life partner, a business partner. Hopefully we'll be able to get some good takeaways from what we've shared so far as well. Thanks everyone.
Bye.